What's going on, guys? Petey here. Today we're going to be looking at a bomber breakdown, seeing which bomber is the best. We're going to include skins in on this too. I'll give you a quick show of what skins we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be looking at the Douglas Dauntless permanent skin. Gives you a little bit of movement speed and HP. We're going to be looking at the B25 flame skin. We're going to be looking at the Mitt neon skin, the Avro Tiger skin, and I believe that's it for the bombers. Those all give additional bonuses. So I'm going to break down how I did this little bar graph here. So basically, we're going to have a couple categories. This one's first is versus vehicle. This will be no buffs. By buffs, I mean suicide, blitz, anything like that. So unbuffed. This is going to include every officer that can apply. It's going to include all the battlefield tech that can apply, all the tech tree stuff for airmen that applies, and that's it. So basically you're getting max bonuses, like if you're a super high level account but you've just never leveled up the troop, and you have all the officers and you're not buffed. So this would be like a scenario that I'd be in if I was just farming. So we're going to get into it. But versus vehicle unbuffed, we can see the Dauntless tops the charts here, 2,500 damage. Vehicle is very important because this is obviously anti-air. So pretty important to have high vehicle for airmen. We can see Junkers are second. Right here you can see this purple line. This is the Mitsubishi neon skin I showed you. And then this one is the flame skin I showed you. I believe this one's plus 100. This is 240. So if you don't have those skins, just go off of the white line. Don't ignore the purple. But yeah, we could see here the Douglas is taking the lead. Junkers right behind it. Mitts, Strats, and the B25s are all pretty much on the same playing field. 200 to 300 difference. And then Avros are the worst in this category. Moving on, we have versus armor. Douglas Dauntless takes the lead again. Junkers following behind. And then in this one, the whole field is kind of level. Everybody's, mitts are higher, 2,500. But everyone's 2,200, 2,100, 1,900. So pretty level here for armor. Douglas definitely takes it away, almost doubling most of these troops. Versus ship, Mitsubishi clearly takes the lead. There is the city troop, the Beaufort or Bristol, whatever it is. I didn't include that one just because I didn't want to calculate it up, but that's not worth it to run. Neither is the Junker, but I just didn't want to include it on that. But yeah, Mitsubishi is about the only thing you should run for trying to fight ships. Everything else is less than, you're going to get shot down. All right, versus building. So this purple right here is for the Avro Tiger skin that I showed you. Strategic bombers take the lead on this. Pretty strong, 4,000 damage, unbuffed. And then Avros, about 3,500. From there, the 25s, and then the Mitts, and then the Douglases, Junkers. Now, getting down here, this versus building should mean quite a bit to you. Because depending on your troop cap, depending on whatever map you're on. So if you have the troop space to take 60 troops with you, then this is a lot more viable to run something that has less building damage, unless you're primarily focusing on PvP. Because say you have 40 troops available to you and you take 30 Mitsubishi bombers. Well, you're also going to need a transport, and you're also going to need infantry, and you're also going to need a couple other, maybe a couple flak. You're going to be lacking on anti-air if you bring enough Mitts or Douglases to take a city. So what I would personally do with the troop cap like that is I would probably just run straight bombers with slight, minimal scouts, minimal anti-air, or run maybe like 20 Dauntlesses and then 10 Avros and then anti-air, something like that. But you're going to have to get a little bit creative if you want to go with those PvP troops, because 900 damage isn't very much. Granted, this is only level 1, but yeah, just keep that in mind. Health. So strats here take the lead, and I think they're at like 14,800 here. Just about 15k. Mitts gets a little bit of health from that skin. If you don't have it, you're sitting around 13.5. B25's get a huge boost from its skin here. You're about 12. And then Avros and Dauntlesses are like neck and neck tied. And then Junkers fall way behind. Speed. So speed's a really important aspect, especially depending on if you're playing a slow map. You need a fast bomber because you'll be getting shot the entire time you're trying to fly towards anti-air. Mitts are the fastest in the game. Dauntlesses are directly below it. Very, very, very minute amount smaller or slower. I mean, the skin speeds them up a tiny bit and catches them up, but the mitts are still the fastest in the game. B25s with the skin takes third, and then Junkers pretty close as well. So how I categorize it is very fast, fast, slow, slow. All right, now we're moving on to buffed, level 1 versus max. So we still have the purple here from our skins, but we also added this little gray block. So with buffed level 1, we're going to be looking at just the white. With buffed level max, you'll see this little addition, the little gray. That's where you'll be if your troops are maxed. Surprisingly, after running the stats on these, there aren't many, like getting to level 85 Douglas, for example, adds, I think, 600 damage. Getting to level 8, these strap bombers, by the way, are level 55. These aren't totally max. I didn't have a picture of totally max ones. So these are only 55, so take it with a grain of salt. Add like maybe half of a bar above it, but it should be relatively the same. But anyways, my point is that like you really don't get that much of a bonus on bombers for damage wise. It mainly comes in health. So, and we'll see that as we progress. But yeah, white, level 1, gray bar, maxed unit, level 50 or 85, and then purple is skin. So here, Dauntlesses still take the lead. They're at 5,000. The buffs included here is going to be Suicide and Siege. So Suicide gives you plus 150% attack. Then Siege gives you building damage, plus 30%. There's no other buffs that give you actual attacks. But yeah, this is simulating a full buff like you're going to go fight PvP. So Mitsubishi's catch up to Junkers here pretty significantly. 3,800 damage versus vehicle. I think Mitts are more around like 3,500. Obviously 5,000 with the Douglas is pretty good. Mitchells are sitting around 3,000. Strats are about 3,200. So pretty interesting. This kind of evens it out a little bit more because if we go back to unbuffed, the Dauntless just had this thing crushed. Yeah, a big advantage. But the Mitsubishis are able to take it back if you put in buffs and max. Something to keep in mind before I move on as well is maxing these. Like I was saying, they don't really add that much, but they cost a ton. The Avros are relatively cheap. B25s are pretty cheap. Douglasses are like, I think, the second most expensive. Strat bombers are the most expensive. And then Mitsubishis are the third most expensive. And I'll give you a little demonstration. So I have my bombers already maxed. My Avros maxed. Junkers I don't have. Strats are 55. So to go to 56 is 192,000 gold. The Mitsubishis are 49. To go to 85, it's 95,000 gold. And then the Douglasses are 22. To go up a level, 62,000. So just to give you a little frame of reference. But yeah, in this chart, like I just said, The Dauntlesses and the Mitsubishis, I got the stats from Princess in my league, and she gave me her max stats on them, but she didn't have the strats. So these are level 55. All the rest of these are completely maxed. All right, moving on. Versus armor, we could see the Dauntless is nearly 7,500 damage here. Junkers are 5,500, 5,700. Mitts are in third, surprisingly. Strats fall below the mitts. And then Mitchell's Avros. But we're seeing really crazy damage here versus armor from the Dauntless. And for vehicle, I'm going back real quick. What is this, like 35? That's 5. So 1,500 damage difference. That's like 20, 30%, 30% damage difference. It's really not that crazy. All right, versus ship. No surprises here. Mitsubishi with 7,700 damage. Strats are in second with 3,000. So there's no better ship killer. Versus building. So the Strat and the Avro are kind of neck and neck here. They both have about 7,000. Mitchell's are in third. Mitts come in with about 2,700. And the Dauntlesses are about 2 grand. So keep that in mind. If you run Dauntlesses or Mitts and you plan on not being buffed, it's going to take you a while to kill a city. All right, and I think this is one of the most important, aside from the speed. This is the health of all the units. So here, the Strat Bomber, if these were maxed, I've seen maxed ones before that creep up to about 19,000 HP. Yeah, so this can go a little bit higher, 30 more levels. But all the rest of these are maxed. Here's the big flame skin. Here's the neon skin. And we're seeing the Mitsubishi's right up there with the Strat. Realistically, the Strat should be here. But to max it is insane, dude. I mean, I'm 6 million gold off from maxing it if it stays the same price, which it's not going to. It's going to keep increasing. I think the last couple levels are over 300,000 gold per level. So you're talking 10 million gold to try to max the dang thing. It's crazy. Yeah, Mitts clearly top the charts here, 17K. Douglas's are coming in a strong third, looking about 14.3. Mitchell's are coming in at about 13.5. And then we can see as is. Now, this also, you got to keep in mind all these buffs. If you use LC officers, you can get the health up a little bit more. And it can make it a little bit more viable for you. Like if someone throws an Arthur, the Air Force big commander that gives plus 10%, you throw that one in, and then you throw in a Dauntless or a Mitsubishi, you can see a lot higher buffs coming off of these guys. It's going to benefit the Mitsubishi because its base HP is higher, but yeah. These Junkers, I would not, unless you're planning on not fighting any anti-air at all, I would never pick up the Junkers. You can get them out of the city, but I wouldn't do it. Finally, speed. Nothing really changed here too much with Blitz. Mitsubishi's pulled ahead a little bit. They're still relatively the same. But Mitchell's kind of are entering the category. The Mitchells are freaking good with that skin. If you don't have it, it's tied with Junkers. But still very fast, slow. So yeah. That's about it on the bombers. Now, important thing to note is you got to kind of know what you want. You got to know what kind of maps that you want to play. If you want to play a bunch of Navy maps, or most maps these days are Navy, but the Douglas isn't going to be that great for you. Unless you're strictly doing PvP against ground, I would not choose the Douglas. I think the Douglas is more of a type of bomber that once you get another bomber up and maxed, maybe the Mitchell or a Strat or the Mitt, once you get those up and maxed and then you have a good army already, then you can go ahead and spend your extra gold on something like that. That would be something to play around with, you know, show up and just blow people's minds with this crazy, you know, vehicle plus 5,000. You just be melting troops. But as far as having them be your go-to and always running them, I don't see that as very viable. Most maps aren't going to let you do it efficiently, and there'd be a better option. Now you could also say strats are pretty good. I think they're just very slow. Most of the maps now aren't one times like global is, so you could get away with doing it, but they also just cost a lot. LC3 is pretty hard to get up, and once you get it up, you kind of want to build a badass unit. And the strat bombers are just they're underneath the mitts as far as offense goes, and they're slower, but they just have slightly more HP, and they can't deal with ships. So those are all the stats I drafted up. Took me a couple hours, but my main thing from this, my main takeaway, is that these Mitchells are really freaking good if you get that skin. For it being just a city troop, like the map that I'm currently playing, the Crisis, they just made it so that way you can't get an LC up until you get to a level 10 city, and then you got to convert the level 10 city. Converting a level 10 city as an airman is like impossible because you just got access to bombers. Unless you make your bombers first and then convert it, and then make a whole new, you know, bunch of bombers and then switch. Like, it's kind of wild. And if they start making maps go to that formula for LCs, which they very well might, then it's going to be hard to get your hands on these League City ones. So the Mitchells, for what they are up there with the best ones. I mean, their health is pretty good. Something else to keep in mind, if they do that LC switch, you're not going to be really dealing with whirlies. You're going to be dealing more with flak, and you can always just bait flak, bait the salvo on them. And you're going to have them before the other team has flak, because they're probably not going to convert either, depending on who you're fighting. But yeah, these Mitchells are really pretty freaking solid. The Junkers, the stats on them always surprise me, but it's kind of the same deal as the Douglas. It's more of like a niche. The HP is just too low. Like, look at that. You're talking a max Junker is 10,000 or less HP. It's just, you're going to get shot down instantly. You can have double the HP with similar stats in the Mitsubishi. So, yeah, just thought I'd share this. I've been wanting to make this video for a while. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think is the best bomber currently. And we'll see you next time. PD out.